Welcome to another edition of Lakeville's City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their June 20th, 2016 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5A, Spotlight on Business. And to provide the background information on this agenda item is Community and Economic Development Director Dave Olson.
Spotlight on Business program is designed to recognize both new and existing commercial and industrial businesses in the Lakeville community. The program is also designed to emphasize for residents the important tax and employment benefits that businesses and industry provide to our community. Tonight we're here to spotlight Dick Sanitation, and part of it is, and you'll see on a number of the slides, it's the company's 50th anniversary, and that was obviously not the only reason, but one of the reasons that we selected and requested that Dick Sanitation be spotlighted. In 1966, Dick Clemmer bought a route and one truck from his father's company, Chet Sanitation, and started Dick Sanitation, Inc., or as a lot of people know it as DSI. Dick and Mary Ann started out with an office in their home and a service route that served commercial customers in Richfield, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, and Bloomington. When the Lakeville dump closed, Dick saw an opportunity for a new business locally and established a larger customer base. In 1972, he purchased an acre of land along County Road 70 and was one of the first businesses to be located in Air Lake Industrial Park. In 1985, DSI acquired Lakeville Sanitation, which opened the residential market for the business. And in 2002, DSI constructed and moved into their new office building, which they still occupy on County Road 70. In 2011, they opened a compressed natural gas fill station in order to transition their fleet to compressed natural gas, and currently approximately 25% of their 95 trucks are using compressed natural gas, and several of us were out at, we have one of the local gas stations in town that now is also making compressed natural gas available to their customers, and in fact, Dick's had a truck out there to demonstrate the fueling process out at McStop Holiday gas station. In 2013, DSI purchased the former drywall supply building to the east of their existing location, and in 2014 opened Recycle Minnesota, which processes 3,000 tons of recyclables each and every month. Currently, DSI operates on a total of 17 acres in Air Lake Industrial Park, 11 acres for their regular operations, and 6 acres for the new Recycle Minnesota operation. DSI has 80,000 weekly pickups and serves over 50,000 residential customers, along with more than 3,500 commercial customers, and service 900 roll-offs per month. Obviously, this has gotten to be a large operation, and I apologize for reading this, but there's a lot of numbers and facts and figures, and I want to get them correct. They employ currently 135 employees and approximately 20 temporary employees at Recycle Minnesota. Based on current tax capacity rates, DSI contributes nearly $160,000 in property taxes on an annual basis to the city, county, and ISD 194. DSI attributes their success to a high level of customer service, a focus on safety, training, and development, being good community stewards, integrity, and quality of their employees.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5C, Police Department Quarterly Report. And to give the information regarding this agenda item is Chief of Police Jeff Long.
Start out with the good news that's been happening. We'll start all the way back into February. In February, Officer Danielson, Landers, and Shank joined in some sledding fun. It was an event that was sponsored by the school district, or School District 194. Officer Bob Rue, who came to us from South Dakota, completed his formal FTO training in February. And in March, I was able to recognize several officers and detectives with written commendations. Those included Officers Fitzhenry, Hokinson, McDonald, Detectives Coughlin, Jensen, Hillmuller, Hawkinson, and Watson. So it was a good month. Continuing on, we participated in the Read Across America that was held in March. Officer Swanner, Lieutenant Girl, and Lieutenant Punchkar participated in this event in the Lakeville schools. And also that month, I was able to recognize Sergeant Jason Jensen in the retirement of his dog, Zeus. In April, we hired 2 new CSOs, Alex Malmstedt and Dustin Vanderbeek. I was going to say Vanderbeek, but they joined LPD and they're doing a great job. And myself and 5 other staff members were able to attend the Minnesota Chiefs of Police Conference in St. Cloud. It was a great opportunity to hear from the Milwaukee Chief of Police and Madison, Wisconsin Chief of Police that have been involved in some very newsworthy events over the last year. Continuing on, we were also able to present Officers Lamb, Berkebaugh, and Roberts with written commendations for significant cases that they worked on in 2015. And Officer Scott Frame and Nick Jacobson were recognized by MAD for their efforts in keeping our roads safe and their work on DUIs. The Minnesota Supreme Court came to Lakeville North High School and heard arguments on a real case regarding what a weapon is. It was actually quite fascinating, and we were able to provide security for that event. Just recently, Officer Danielson brought back our new canine who replaced Zeus. His name is Kilo. Kilo's an 18-month-old Belgian Malinois. He comes from the same bloodlines as Officer Loeffler's canine Tank. And then on the left-hand side is Sergeant Jake Hastingway. He was on a call in which a woman had fallen in her garage and was having trouble navigating steps. On his days off, he went and built them a ramp. Some notable cases during that time period is Walgreens had a significant amount, thousands of dollars of body wash and other hygiene products disappearing. Wasn't happening in just our store, but many others. Our work with Egan was able to find the suspects on that and put an end to that. We had just some, what I would consider kind of useless crime, or where these people threw rocks through some very expensive windows, causing over $5,000 worth of damage. We developed some suspects on that and charged those kids with that. This was a newsworthy event in which we had an individual driving the wrong way down 46, struck another motorist who was proceeding down Cedar. He continued on into a home in Apple Valley and was charged with both crimes, and his sentencing scheduled for September. We had a stolen check that was altered, a significant amount. Suspect was ID'd, charging that person. Probation violation, this was a rather disturbing case. A high school student was posting inappropriate photos of herself on a website. She was also dating a convicted sex offender. We were able to link the two together through photographs, and the person is now being charged with a probation violation. Damage to property, we had a suspect flee from the officers, crashed into a local business with a stolen vehicle, damaging $23,000 worth of the building. And finally, a burglary, broke into Fleet Farm and stole 3 muzzleloader handguns. We arrested that person also. Some comparison numbers to crimes year to date. These are the bad crime, or they're all bad crimes, but the crimes that we really don't want to see any of. Criminal sexual conduct, about the same as last year. Domestic assaults were down slightly during this time period, keeping in mind that this was only through April, and other assaults are slightly down also. Property crimes year to date, theft is slightly down. Just click through the numbers. Burglaries are slightly different. Damage to property is down, so that's a positive thing. And then vehicle theft is up slightly. Our citizens' response, our medical emergencies, those are up slightly. Those vary year to year, just depending on a variety of different factors. Animal-related calls are up. Alarms, I think, are down slightly. Suspicious calls, as I mentioned in my last quarterly report, this is always good news. We want people to call when they see suspicious activity. So anything that they see that they don't think is right, they should call us, and so that's a good sign. The crisis calls, again, keeping in mind that this ended in April, those numbers have changed significantly, and we'll see a different number in the next quarterly report. Our CAT incidents up significantly again from last year, 14,000 in the same time period last year, 17,000 this year. Average response time, again, February through April. We want to keep in mind that this was only through April. We had a very mild winter, which allowed our response times to be good. Again, I checked the most recent ones, and the times have changed significantly as our caseload or call load increases during the warmer months. These response times have moved up. So it's about an average time of 9 minutes to respond to a call. Again, my concern with this is for medical emergencies and that sort. That's a long time for a response. We'll continue to work on that, but that's where they're at right now. Crashes up slightly. Again, keeping in mind, we hear a lot of information about the roundabout. So with those numbers, I'm actually pleased with those, that they're only up about 22 calls from last year to this year. Speeding citations are up and DUIs are down. How are we doing on traffic enforcement? As you've known over the last few months, we've had just tragic accidents taking place in Lakeville. I continue to believe that we need a stronger education and stronger enforcement action. People have to understand that there are ramifications for their actions. So this is where we're sitting for traffic stops. We've increased about 700 stops over last year at this time. This is strictly from our traffic unit, the Officer Andy Henches that works in our solely traffic enforcement. 300 in traffic stops, and out of those 370, he's only written 140 citations, 173 warnings. And I continue to point this out to people. In Lakeville, we continue to write more warnings than citations. Education is a big part of what we do, and we believe that not everyone will need a citation, but certainly there's those cases that are unexcusable that do get those. 21 hours of directed patrol. Those are patrol hours that he's spending just where people have called to complain. We try to spend a half hour to 45 minutes to observe during those peak periods that they have indicated that there's traffic problems. And again, this is just one person. This doesn't include the whole department. I took a snapshot of just 1 month of where our traffic stops are occurring, and I've taken the different sectors. My purpose in showing this is to show that we are taking all spots all over the city. It's not isolated in one area. Again, this is just 1 month, so it's not going to be inclusive of all the neighborhoods and so forth, but it does show that we're pretty spread out throughout the city, no matter what sector you look at. And then what we started last year is just comparing what we're doing to some other cities. You can see where we're at. Currently, Egan with a population of about 6,000 more people, slightly above us in their call load. The others really aren't that significant difference statistically, and then there's Woodbury. Looking at the theft from autos, there's where we're at, there's where Egan is at, and that's where Woodbury's at. Looking at our statistics from Dakota County Communications, this is the number of calls that they take and dispatch us on. Egan's at 16,000, Burnsville's at 12,000, and we're at 15,000. And I'll end it with our mission statement. And I always like to read this at the end because I do believe it's a true partnership that we have with the community. And we are dedicated to reducing crime, problem solving, and ensuring the quality of life in Lakeville. And I will stand for any questions.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 8, resolution approving Spirit of Branchin Farm Elementary Edition. And to provide the information regarding this agenda item is City Consultant Dan Licht with the Planning Company.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Dan Licht with the Planning Company, your planning consultant. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to present this project. It's always nice to follow SBF Development Corporation and the school district with their project because it makes our job easy from a staff perspective. We always like to show the original land use plan for Spirit of Branchin Farm that was adopted by the City Council in June of 2005. It's representative of the land uses envisioned at that time. The diagram that Mr. Fick showed as part of his presentation shows how the project has evolved since that point and the subsiding of the recession as the developer responded to market conditions, but still bringing forward a substantially superior product and development within the city of Lakeville. The area where the elementary school is proposed was originally guided for medium density land uses. As you can see on the image, there's no schools shown anywhere on the site. But from a land use perspective, the comprehensive plan does call for the city to work with school districts to provide facilities necessary to serve existing and future residents of the community. And this area is no different. With the underlying zoning that's in place as part of the PUD district, schools are allowed to develop within these areas, essentially subject to site design standards. And there, again, you can see the evolution of the site plan as brought forward. The application includes a preliminary and final plat to provide right-of-way for Diamond Path to be extended to provide the primary access to the site, as well as 162nd Street. With this plat approval, there'll be a condition included that the developer will provide a second public street access, either extending 162nd Street to Eagle View Drive or one of the southerly connections to the residential neighborhoods by 2018 to provide access. There's also 3 outlots provided. 2 are future phases, and the first outlot A is the corridor for the regional trail. that's being realigned from the original plan, which followed the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services easement. Instead, it's being rerouted to line up with that box culvert, which, as the Planning Commission noted, it's a unique opportunity to take advantage of something put in so long ago for a gravel mining purpose that will serve the public into the future as part of this project. The developer brought forward an outstanding site plan from a land use standpoint that takes advantage, being a transitional land use between traffic volumes on County Road 46 as well as Diamond Path, to single-family uses likely to develop to the south and other residential uses that will occur in the future phases to the west. With the park space abutting the regional trail, there's connectivity there between the open spaces on local, school district, and county levels. Also, the way the site design lays into the existing topography of the site with the two-story building basically stepping down the existing topography. From a site design standpoint also, traffic management is excellent in terms of providing not only the required number of parking spaces specified by the zoning ordinance, but the circulation pattern to ensure that there's separation of inbound and outbound traffic, as well as segregation of bus traffic as well from those uses. So again, compliments to the developer on their layout of their site plan. The building architecture also maintains the character and standards expected in the spirit of Branch and Farm. It exceeds the requirements of the zoning ordinance with over 50% masonry materials on the exterior of the building, and obviously differentiated segmentation of the structure as well. The Planning Commission held their public hearing to consider the application on June 2nd. There were no public comments received, and again, the Planning Commission was very positive for the proposed development and the opportunity to have an elementary school be the focus for the northern portion of Spirit Branch and Farm. The Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Committee had also considered the application at their meeting on June 1st and was recommending approval subject to park dedication being satisfied with the available amenities within the development itself. And we are available to answer any questions the council may have.
Item number 8 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Next highlighted item on the agenda was item number 9, Lakeville Point. And once again, to provide the background information on this agenda item is City Consultant Dan Licht from the Planning Company.
Thank you, Mayor. This site is located at the northeast corner of 185th Street and Kenwood Trail, just south of the commercial development and adjacent to Raven Lake. The comprehensive plan does guide it for office residential transition uses, and it's zoned accordingly as well. That zoning designation was basically intended to accommodate spot locations within the community where there's unique characteristics where the type of development that's appropriate is really based on specific site locations, and this is a perfect example, transitioning from the more intensive commercial uses to the north and then to the single-family uses to the east. The comprehensive plan anticipated that land use designation being primarily commercial-oriented with office-type uses, but provided opportunity for multiple family housing as a conditional use as an opportunity area for the city to encourage multiple family development to help meet its housing goals stated within the comprehensive plan. So from a land use perspective, this site is appropriately located and proposed for development of multiple family uses. The developer is proposing 49 units on the 3.1 acres that were just platted this evening as Raven Lake Third Edition and the outlot. They're requesting preliminary plat approval at this time, along with the applicable conditional use permits for the multiple family housing, as well as the conditional use permit for the slightly higher elevation of the building due to the layout of the structure and the site. Just touching on kind of some of the zoning issues following the developer's excellent presentation of their project. Access will be off of Kenwood Trail. There's one access point aligned with the public street to the west. That access is currently open for full access, but may be restricted in the future by Dakota County. In response, the developer is providing a right turn lane into their site, so there won't be any impacts to traffic entering or exiting the subject site. From a zoning standpoint, in terms of lot requirements, the zoning ordinance requires 2,500 square feet of lot area per unit. This project is well within that allowance. They also meet the dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance, including setbacks, with the additional 5 feet required on the north, south, and east property lines due to the additional height of the building. Also, with respect to that issue of the building height, obviously the topography of the site and the existing vegetation to the east offset that additional height, making only basically the third floor and the roof section of the building potentially visible from the street to the east, but again, with the existing trees in place and those that are proposed, it's unlikely that the building will be visible. Within the structure, there are, again, 49 dwelling units, 80% of which are 2-bedroom or larger. Each of the units exceeds the minimum sizes required by the zoning ordinance, and obviously includes a number of amenities outlined by the developer as part of their project. With respect to the off-street parking issue that was touched on, the zoning ordinance requires 2.5 parking stalls per dwelling unit currently. That's to account for both residents and guest parking. They're showing 62 parking stalls under the building in the enclosed garage, as well as 40 surface parking stalls. They are showing on the site plan the ability to construct all the 124 stalls required by the zoning ordinance on the east side of the parking lot. As city staff has explained, the city council has directed staff to review and explore options for accommodating and adjusting the performance standards for multiple family housing to reflect actual need and development standards current today. We're in the process of doing that and would expect to have that effort completed through the Planning Commission and Council by the time this came for final plat approval. So the stipulation listed on the report with this application is that they comply with the parking requirements in effect at the time of building permit. So that gives them the ability to receive their preliminary plat and conditional use permit approval, move forward to finalize their plans while city staff is completing the issue with regards to the parking requirements. The same issue applies to the inside of the building and the parking dimensions that were shown on the overhead showing access and circulation of those stalls. Given the fact that these are interior stalls, so you don't have issues with snow storage or water ponding, the fact that it's controlled by management and they can direct the location of who's parking where, plus the availability of potentially one stall outside for each dwelling unit really reduces or mitigates any concerns about that being an issue for the design of the building. The impact to the building would be significant if they had to comply with that requirement, because it basically means making the building 4 feet wider. And then you're going to start encountering site design issues. So where we can accommodate and provide functionality, that's the direction that we've taken in reviewing the site plan. Also, with regards to the site plan, they do have significant landscaping shown at the perimeter of the building with emphasis on the east property line. That wetland really provides the transition between the existing single-family uses and this proposed development, and they're including significant numbers of evergreen trees that will provide a year-round screening of the building from view. The Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Committee reviewed the proposed development at their meeting June 1st. There were no concerns about the proposed development, and the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan doesn't call for dedication of land as part of this project, so the park dedication requirements would be satisfied as a cash fee in lieu of land at the time of final plat approval. There is an existing trail already in place along Kenwood Trail that was completed as part of the county road improvements. So there is pedestrian connectivity to the site, especially with regards to the commercial uses to the north. Engineering issues were also reviewed in detail, and you have the report from the engineering department as part of your packet. The Planning Commission held a public hearing June 2nd to consider the application. There were no comments made at the public hearing. The developer had also held a neighborhood meeting several weeks in advance of the public hearing, and 4 residents from the adjacent neighborhood attended with a number of questions that the developer responded to and apparently addressed to satisfaction. So as the developer said, it was a pleasure to work with them on this process. They were responsive to all the issues and concerns that city staff raised with regards to the project and compliant with the zoning ordinance. The project in itself does meet all the requirements of the zoning ordinance, which is the primary consideration for a conditional use permit application. So city staff recommends approval of the request subject to the 8 conditions that are outlined in your packet this evening.
Item number 9 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the highlighted items presented to the council at their June 20th, 2016 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville's City Council Wrap-Up.